Hi, I'm Tanya O'Connor and I'm the head of the profession for the Government Operational Research Service. I'm often asked, what is operational research? Well, operational research is the application of mathematical and scientific techniques, methods to real-world problems. It's also one of the four core analytical professions that sit alongside statistics, economics and social research at the heart of the government analysis function. The name operational research dates back to the Second World War, where a group of very clever scientists at the centre of government were researching how to improve the effectiveness of military operations, hence operations or operational research. As a profession, OR didn't really take off until the late 60s and early 70s, as separate departmental groups started to join up and work more collaboratively, creating the foundations of the network across departments that we recognise today. And GORS now has over 1,000 OR professionals spread across 25 government departments and agencies. And there's also another additional 350 or so OR analysts working in the Defence Science and Technology Laboratory. So what does a day in the life, my current role, look like? Well as head of profession for GORS, Government OR Service, my current day job is Director of Analysis at the Ministry of Defence. Here I directly oversee a team of around 200 analysts, statisticians, economists, data scientists, as well as operational researchers, as well as being the head of Defence's own analysis function. And we're all there to ensure evidence is at the heart of Defence policy decision making. Be that appraising high-level investment decisions or overseeing the performance and delivery of defence programmes, personnel modelling for the armed forces or our civilian HR systems, or monitoring the health and well-being of service personnel and veterans, or running defence surveys in order to understand the attitude of our military. All of that's just an example of the sort of areas of work that my teams are involved in at the moment. I've often described my job as an analytical problem solver, and explaining the complex to the busy is a key part of that process. But alongside that, as head of GORS, I chair our professions management boards, and these involve the other departmental heads of profession as they oversee the wider development and frameworks supporting our analysts, including professional competencies, standards, managing our recruitment processes to ensure a continuous and growing supply of OR analysts. How do we induct our new recruits, providing training opportunities as they progress in their careers? And then I also represent GORS at the overarching Central Government Analysis Function Board. How did I end up here? What's been my career journey, so to speak? Well, I graduated 35 years ago, and since then I've always worked in the civil service. My qualifications were in maths, stats and computing, which is a really good platform for doing OR. I joined the then small OR team in the Department for Education. Did a lot of financial modelling of education systems, from school level funding models, teachers' pay bill modelling, right the way up to forecasting the total cost of education for the country. Later on, I worked in the Cabinet Office, I worked in the Treasury, I worked in the Department of Health and Social Care, and for the last 4 years or so, I've been at the Ministry for Defence. But it's not just analytical roles. While I've maintained my OR roots, I've also done policy roles, departmental performance monitoring, while I was in the Prime Minister's Delivery Unit, strategy roles, and more recently combining my central OR head of profession role with being the chief statistician for Defence. So, how does the OR profession fit into the wider analysis landscape? Well, OR core skills certainly overlap and complement those of the other professions, particularly statisticians and economists. But we focus more on modelling processes, understanding the systems, and helping to predict what will or might happen. And alongside the core analytical skills that we share with those other professions, we use simulation, problem structuring, systems thinking, modelling, optimisation, and short and long-term forecasting. All this is to help policymakers understand their world and rely on us to provide clear, accurate and timely advice. I think that's key to all of our roles. And then we can all work together to improving the quality of decision making and drive up the quality of public services. The last 12 months have been particularly challenging. No one would have predicted the fundamental change in the ways of working required to continue to deliver while everyone has been working from home. but the response has just been phenomenal. Teams have continued to deliver. OR analysts have contributed across government to the COVID response, be it working on the epidemiological models, feeding into the scientific advisory groups, to logistical support for vaccine distribution. And there's been wide support for monitoring and understanding the impact of public sector and delivery of public services. This could be through monitoring trade, vaccine take-up, transport capacity, retail footfall, impact on the business sector, take-up of furlough schemes. If we can model it, we've been involved in it in some way or another. And over the last year, analysts from all the professions have been key to supporting the processes behind the scenes in order to ensure that we can continue to deliver the public services across all the major government departments. It hasn't been easy, however, and I do worry there is more that we need to do, not just in terms of the analysis, but in supporting our staff as we transition back from the majority of people working alone at home. We've had to change the way that we recruit and the way we induct new staff, especially when you have to remember that some of them have never worked in an office before and they're starting their government careers working from home. While remote working has challenged collaboration and group creativity, well, we've all become adept at video meetings, etc. But local learning from your colleagues, that sort of interaction you have across the desks and while you work across analytical projects, that has been particularly difficult. All that said, the response has been amazing, and I'm really proud of the OR and wider analytical profession's ability to step up and support critical government decisions during the pandemic lockdown. Phenomenal response. How could you pursue a career in OR if you're interested? Well, first of all, if you wanted to work in OR, you need a mathematical or a statistical or scientific background. Mix this with an inquiring, problem-solving attitude and the ability to see connections and understand systems. Combine this with a desire to improve public services, and finally mix in the skill of presenting and communicating analysis in a clear and concise way. And if this describes you, then we want to hear from you. Search on the web for the Government Operational Research Service, or GORS, G-O-R-S, and you'll find more details. I was asked what do I enjoy doing outside of work? Well, it's slightly different at the moment, but I like quizzes, setting, partaking, and maybe that's the problem-solving attitude in me coming through, I don't know. And hobby gaming, but that all has to wait until we can get groups back together safely. I also have an interest in London history and trivia and have led numerous tours around Westminster and the West End area, pointing out all the interesting things that people walk past every day but miss. It would be great to get back to doing this once we can return to a more socially interactive lifestyle. But for the moment, just doing research at home. So, I hope that gives you a flavour of what operational research is and what it's like to work as an OR analyst in government. And if you want to learn more, just search on the web for GORS or search for operational-research.gov.uk. Thanks very much. Cheers. Bye.